A Neighbor's Choice. And I'm your neighbor, your host, David Gornoski. So glad to be back with you all. I just had a live chat with Dr. Daryl Scott, who is instrumental in the Trump administration for urban community issues and all kinds of economic revival issues. A longtime friend of President Trump. Very interesting discussion. I asked him about legalization of marijuana, and he's had some reservations about it, but you could see that there was an openness to at least thinking about the positives of that. And so I want to turn now to a panel of friends of mine that are going to make this closer to home, something that I think needs to be talked about, because our country is being torn apart because we don't want to understand the proper role of law. And as I told Dr. Scott just a couple minutes ago, just because something is a sin doesn't mean you have the right to use the force of law to punish people for it. For example, adultery has done more to destroy families and tear families apart than any drug in the history of mankind. And when Jesus was faced with punishing the woman accused of adultery, he said, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." And on that same level, we have the issue of what's going on in our criminal justice system for drug use. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone against someone accused of a drug crime. If there is no victim, there shouldn't be a crime. And joining me now to discuss this, and then we're going to introduce some other guests that will join us, is Amy Pova, who is the founder of the Can Do Clemency Foundation, and Rufus Rochelle. How you doing?
Hello there. Hello. How you doing there, Dave? Mr. Gornoski.
Yeah, we had a great discussion with Dr. Daryl Scott, who's very close with President Trump, and I mentioned you, Rufus, to him and told him about your case. I want to ask you, what do you say about, or start with Amy. Amy, what do you say about the argument that, if you legalize marijuana, it's a gateway drug and it's just going to cause more people to jump into harsher drugs?
Well, then alcohol is a gateway drug.
Yeah.
That smoking cigarettes is probably the biggest gateway drug in the world. That theory has been debunked many, many times, and I don't see anybody wanting to make cigarettes illegal, but cigarettes have led to the deaths of many people, whereas marijuana, there's not a single case of anybody who's ever overdosed on it, and it has medicinal properties, unlike cigarettes. So what is destroying people is our criminal justice system that believes it's okay to put people like Craig Cecil in prison for life for pot, and never in the history of our country, even back to Harry Anslinger in the Reefer Madness days, did we ever put anyone in prison for life. So today, when it's a billion-dollar industry, we simultaneously have people who are serving life for pot. Fortunately, as you know, Craig Cecil is on home confinement now. I think he was the first person I ever connected you with that was in prison. And you have done so much for Craig in getting him published. And I think you're probably more of an expert on this issue because of your, advocacy for people who are serving life for pot, which we do as well.
Well, I think that, you've been at the forefront of this conversation, and you continue to work like a field nurse with all the different families that come in wounded and distraught because of our justice system. And we're going to talk about a case that I think you've been involved with that I think is close to home in a geographical sense for our Florida listeners, but also close to home. And I got to know this individual, John Boland, and his wife, June Boland. We're going to have June Boland in just a moment. But I wanted to kind of let you set the table, Amy, about, the story of John Boland and what you guys are doing right now with his story.
Well, Rufus, who's going to speak in a minute, Rufus was actually the one who told me about John Boland. So it's kind of like a family reunion right now.
Yeah.
Because Rufus is home. He was serving time with John. And initially, when Rufus called and was asking us for help, I found out, he has some other people that were helping him. And John Boland's case really stood out, and then we decided to go ahead and help Rufus and John. Rufus has a major fan club. I mean, he has so many people who have been helping lift him up, and he's just amazing, but he has such a big, huge heart that he never hesitates to try to help others. So June was another one because she lived in Florida, and a while back you were asking to be connected with people in Florida, so I thought June was a perfect fit to come on your show. Gosh, what has that been? Almost a year now, right. And if not longer. And John is serving multiple life sentences because he allowed his boat to be used after a hurricane wiped him out financially, and it was used by drug dealers. He knew that. I'll let June tell the story because I think she's closest to it, and since she's going to be on. But we submitted his case to the White House, and it's up for consideration. But now there's just so much energy in the compassionate release category that we encouraged him to file. There's three doors you can walk through: clemency, compassionate release, and home confinement. And we encourage everybody to try all three because whatever gets you home first is the best. And so we sent June a bunch of the case law for compassionate release. I think John is done with it and even got it filed. June can educate you on that. But with COVID-19 taking off in the prison system at a time when the businesses are beginning to open back up, we're concerned that it's going to fall off the national media stage, and the most critical thing for our prisoners is getting them out of harm's way.
Right.
And John also knew Richard Dickey Lynn, and Richard is somebody else that we advocate for, also from Florida Keys, and he's walking out. He was serving a life sentence, and he's walking out the 29th of June because of a compassionate release.
Is that completely released or home confinement still? How does that work?
He's a compassionate release, so he's done. Compassionate release is very similar to clemency in that your sentence is commuted, but the probation sticks, and so you get to go home, and probation, then after a year you can ask for that to be removed. So he's as good as gold. He gets to walk out, and we'll be going down to the Keys. I hope to come myself and meet him in the not-too-distant future. And but John Boland knew Dickey also, so that's why I say it's kind of like a big family reunion.
And Rufus Rochelle, I wanted to ask you, what was John like when you were serving time with him in Coleman Prison?
John is a very impeccable young man, a very person that cares about everyone. You never see him upset. You never see him angry. He's a very, very compassionate person, and he's always helping individuals as well. He's a really, really, really what I consider a real gentleman. You know, I never heard him curse. I never seen him get angry or in an uproar or none of that at all. You know, and then it makes individuals say, well, what is he doing in prison? A person like that. This is the kind of person that you would love to have as a friend outside of prison. Really, you know, because he's a person that really, really, really cares about his fellow man, and he's so family oriented. You know, he stays in contact with his wife. He's a mentor. He works every day in the commissary, you know, in the prison, and he's a person that comes around and checks on a person to make sure that they're all right, you know. Even while I'm outside of prison, he calls here to find out if I'm okay, you know. So he's an impeccable young man. He really is, you know. And I can't say enough for him because he deserves freedom. He deserves freedom. I would love to have a person like that stand next door to me because he's that person that you could say, well, you know, you got a real wonderful neighbor next door, you know, that you could really rely on.
Well, hopefully, maybe he'll be visiting you at your house soon. Let's keep pushing. We're going to push every day for folks like John Boland and Rufus Rochelle and Amy Pova and everyone, Craig Cecil, all the folks that we get to know, Tyneese Hall, who's now home. We've got a lot more. Angela Stanton-King, she's got her full part in. We'll continue live on A Neighbor's Choice with June Boland, wife of John Boland, who's serving 4 back-to-back life sentences for a non-violent, trumped-up charge, in my opinion. We'll continue live in just a moment on A Neighbor's Choice.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It can be devastating. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that will keep you informed throughout the entire process. That law firm is Catania & Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims do not even realize that they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to Catania & Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning over 28 years and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
Black Rock Grill is open again. Yep, I took the team to Black Rock for our truly special occasion on opening night. It's such a unique experience, unlike anything you've ever tasted. They serve it on that unique 755-degree hot stone. You cook it right there at the table, bathed in that amazing casino butter. Wow, every bite sizzling hot, better than the last. It's an award-winning steakhouse featuring 100% pure Angus beef. The method of cooking, the hottest thing in the culinary world. You got to try it. And in these uncertain financial times, very reasonable. Steak dinner with 2 sides, just $15.99. And they've gone to great expense to make you feel safe. 30-plus sanitation stations, FDA-approved bacteria-erasing foggers, glass dividers between the booths. Nothing is left to chance. And don't forget our friends at Black Rock were there when you needed them, handing out thousands of free meals to our frontline workers and neighbors in need. An amazing commitment to the neighborhood. Black Rock Bar and Grill, 2 locations, Carrollwood and Brandon, for a truly unique dining experience. Go to blackrockrestaurants.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Lang, board-certified optometric physician and certified nutritional specialist, host of popular talk show Ask the Doctor. I've researched and developed an amazing new omega-3 product that you'll see incredible results with. It's called Fortify Super Omega-3 Max. I had one of the top Norwegian omega-3 research teams in conjunction with myself and Fortify Vitamins aid in the development of this advanced omega-3. This product is the most potent and purest triglyceride form omega-3 in the United States today. Omega-3 is great for all aspects of your health and well-being, especially in this unprecedented, challenging time. I am giving a 25% discount with promo code RADIO during this viral pandemic. Go to my website, fortify.com. That's FORTIFEYE. Remember the EYE in Fortify. That's fortify.com. Enter the promo code RADIO to receive the 25% discount.
Neighbor's Choice is back. I'm David Gornoski, your host. Happy to be with you. And we're live with friends of the program. We have Rufus Rochelle, he had a sentence of 40 years for a trumped-up drug charge. Didn't even have drugs on his possession, but roped into a conspiracy and sent to 32 years he spent before he got home confinement because of the coronavirus. He is a leader and fighter for criminal justice reform. And now we're joined by the wife of a friend of his who he got to know while spending time for a nonviolent charge in Coleman Federal Prison here in Florida. We have the wife of John Boland, June Boland. How you doing, June?
I'm good, David. How are you today?
I'm doing well, and it's great to have you back on our program. We had we had you on a little while ago, over a year, I believe, in Orlando. and we had your husband, John, who's now, because of the coronavirus, on a lockdown, so he's not able to call in as well, right?
That's correct. Yes, they're making it very difficult for them to stay in contact.
And Rufus Rochelle, you spent time with John, right?
Yes, I did. That was my friend, man. I tell you, we worked on numerous programs together, and mentoring individuals that's incarcerated in the skill program, and not only in the skill program, but throughout the compound, and it was very, very infatuating working along with Mr. Boland, because Mr. Boland is a man that really wants individuals to change. He's a caring person. You never see him bitter or anger. He's always helping individuals, even due to the situation which he's going through with the 4 life sentences. Sometimes I wonder, and many, other guys have actually asked one another, man, how can this man be as calm as he is and the personality he has, and always helping others and putting others before himself. And he has 4 life sentences, and you never see him angry at all. He's the same person each and every day, I must say.
Well,
same identical person each and every day. Really, caring heart, wonderful person.
June Boland,
Thank you, Rufus.
I'm glad that we could connect you two together on this segment. June, can you tell us a little bit about your husband and, why you think he needs to come home?
He made a mistake, but I don't feel like anybody for a first-time nonviolent offense should spend the rest of their life in prison. It's insane to me for anybody, and especially for John, because how Rufus describes him is true. And I know Rufus had to live with him in not so nice circumstances. It's not exactly a positive energy or a positive environment. And that's just John. I mean, he gets upset about things too, but I think all of us, our whole family, have tried to focus on just staying positive and hoping for some sort of change and good things to come out of what's happened to our family. And we just have always believed that something has to give, something has to change, because we exhausted all the legal options that we could. And even when we felt that we did win in the courts, the judges tended to write against it, of course, so that gives no relief to people when the judges go against what the recommendations are. But even still, we decided, you have a choice. You can stay positive and hope for the best, or you can, feel pity for yourself or sorry for yourself, and that's no good. It's just going to bring more bad energy into your life. So that's just John. The way Rufus describes it is true. And I so appreciate, Rufus, all your support and your love for John and your friendship now that you're out advocating for him. It means so much to our family to have good, positive voices out there for us.
Well, June, how does it feel to know that an individual who served an unjust sentence similar to your husband, who is a close friend of his, is now at his home right now talking to us? Doesn't that give us some encouragement?
Oh, my gosh. All these releases, like Craig Cecil, like you mentioned, Rufus, I was elated to hear that these people are being sent home. I don't care how it happens for anybody. Just to be reunited with their families is very encouraging, for sure.
And I wanted to ask you, how is your family doing in this time? I know that your family's taken a lot of tough times with this experience of having your husband in prison with this arduous sentence. How are they doing?
Yeah, he's hanging in there. I mean, they are taking some precautions, I guess. It's not as much as they definitely could be. So it's scary to know that all of our loved ones are in there and they're in this contained environment and subject to the virus and not the best healthcare system on top of it inside. So it's every day it's scary. You don't get to hear from them every day anymore because of the lockdown. So that makes it worse. That not knowing is scarier than, if he had gotten sick and I knew he was getting better. It's been very difficult for sure. We're hoping, maybe it'll be over sooner than later. That's about all he can do. He stays safe. Everybody's doing their best, but it's sad that this is how our country treats people. You know, they put them in prison and behind bars with these horrible sentences to begin with, and it's unfortunate that some people have ended up with a death sentence because of this virus, and the government and the Bureau of Prisons, really their lack of doing what they need to do, the right thing for people and their families.
And we just heard from Amy Pova from Can Do Clemency Foundation, who put us all together, that that John Boland, your husband's petition, is at the White House. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on there?
Unfortunately, the details are very hush-hush, but his clemency petition is, and it has been there for a little while now. And from what I understand, it's being looked at, and it hasn't been denied. So no is a good thing.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I mean,
we're hopeful for that as well. Yes.
I've heard John. He came on my show, and I've corresponded with him in emails back and forth, and he's certainly a man of great character. And Rufus, you attest to that as well.
Yes. You know, I tell you, I want to say this here. You know, when you're in the White House, you know, your clemency is in the White House. Yes. That's a big plus. You know, because, you know, a lot of the clemencies, as many of you might not know, you know, don't even make it to the White House. You know, when it goes to the Department Attorney's office, you know, a lot of times it doesn't make it out of the Department Attorney's office. And to be in the White House, that's the last step. You know, that shows you there's in terms of a big plus. In other words, you know, you're on your way out. You're on your way out. You know, I must say that. You know, it's just a matter of time. He's on his way out. You know, and we could pat each other on the back for that. You know, because his next move is home sweet home. You know, and so I feel strongly that he's gonna make it home very, very soon. And I feel within my heart it'll be this year.
So, Rufus, what do you think when you're going to see John maybe come visit you at your house, huh?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
That'll probably be our first stop.
You know, we're here. As you know, Dave, my brother-in-law, his name is Robert Boland, Bob Boland. You know, spelled the same way. And then you got the area, the land, you know, right here is the Boland Landing, you know. And Mr. Gornoski been here. And it's a nice area, nice location. It's real quiet and all that. You hear the birds singing and all. It's a nice place to be. I tell you.
Well, maybe we'll have to have a party with everybody here soon. How's that sound?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that my gosh, that would be awesome.
Nice. You know, if we could accommodate them.
Well, we're out of time, but I love hearing this story, and we're going to keep pushing to get the word out about John Boland. He needs clemency now. So thanks again, Rufus, and keep up the fight, June. We're really rooting for you.
Thank you, David.
He's going to come home.
That's all right. That's to from your lips to God's ears.
Some lunacy going on. The madness of 2020.
Weekdays 11 to 2.
I'm just so fed up with these Democrats. It's unbelievable.
Get it straight from Chris Plant.
They're so hypocritical. It makes me sick.
It's the Chris Plant Show.
This has just got me going on.
And the left is waging war against the police in the United States.
Telling it like it is.
You should be thanked profusely for getting to the point. You're a voice of reason in the sea of idiots.
The Chris Plant Show. Weekdays 11 to 2. News Talk 1040 WHPO.
A still increasing number of people are going to the hospital with coronavirus in 19 states. Deaths increasing in 11 states. California Governor Gavin Newsom says the state's now starting to break records set in April.
Total number of cases are going up in the state of California.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott says in the last half of May, the state averaged 1,500 positive cases a day. Past 5 days, over 3,500 a day.
COVID-19 is now spreading at an unacceptable rate in Texas, and it must be corralled.
Louisiana won't be easing its restrictions anymore for the moment because of an uptick in cases. 2 Trump campaign staffers who attended President Trump's campaign rally in Tulsa Saturday have tested positive for coronavirus. That from the Trump campaign to ABC News. The FBI is investigating the discovery of a noose found in Alabama's Talladega Superspeedway garage stall of Bubba Wallace, the black driver who successfully pushed to get the Confederate flag banned from NASCAR events. Chuck Sievertson, ABC News.
And welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. We just heard from June Boland, who's the wife of John Boland, who's serving 4 back-to-back life sentences for a nonviolent first-time drug charge. We're hoping that John's going to be coming home soon. He's got his petition for clemency at the White House. That's what we're hearing. And we're hoping that Amy Pova and many others will be able to set many folks free from arduous, unjust sentences. And that's what A Neighbor's Choice is at the forefront of talking about in our discourse today. And joining me now is an award-winning investigative journalist, multiple Emmy award-winning journalist, Lara Logan. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and it's great to have you on the program. We've been watching what you've been doing in regards to investigating Antifa.
Yes, it's not a very popular subject. There's been anyone who talks about it is being attacked, and I'm just one of them. One of the few. That's how they intimidate journalists into not covering it.
Now, how does a multiple Emmy award-winning investigative journalist get attacked for just merely talking about a street organization like Antifa?
Well, because this is what they do. They like to hide behind the fact that Antifa is not an organization. You'll hear lots of people saying that. In fact, Antifa's literature and many of these anarchist sites talk about auxiliaries and multiple small organizations. That's what they do. They make many, many, many small different groups, and they change their names constantly, and they stay ahead of law enforcement, and they stay ahead of accountability, and they stay ahead of investigative journalists. That's how they function. But they all have the same ideology. The ideology is the organizing principle behind all of it. And they all use the same tactics. And those two unifying things are really what is most significant about them. So it's kind of no different to a terrorist organization like Al-Qaeda. You know, everybody wanted every terrorist to be carrying a membership card to Al-Qaeda, and then we created this completely fake thing called core Al-Qaeda, which was defined by geography. No, it doesn't work like that. They have a network of multiple organizations whose ideology and is what unites them. And in fact, it's global. It unites them all over the world. They communicate globally because technology has enabled them to proliferate, and they're clandestine. That's why they wear masks, right? They wear masks because they're hiding their identities. They're hiding who they really are. They're hiding what they really believe in. Because if you look at the ideology, what is it really about? It's not about freedom of the press. No, they don't want that. In fact, they're harassing and attacking and throwing journalists out, and they're proliferating on their social media sites that they want journalists to be thrown out, especially if they're doing what? If they're live streaming, where they can't control the message, they can't control what you see, and they also can't control being seen. It's very important. If you take a look at all the streaming and everything that they've been doing from the very beginning, one of the things you see over and over again is them calling on each other not to be filmed. And you will see there are many protesters, in fact, many of them people of color, who have intervened when they've seen people from Antifa or the Black Bloc or any of these other anarchist groups, when they've seen them carrying out acts of violence, like breaking the windows along the order zone, like all the windows, right? Because they want to encourage and provoke people to loot. They want to provoke people to behave badly. And use that civil unrest to make their point and to serve their political agenda and their political ends. So when they get stopped by people, many of these protesters who don't want to do that, who aren't there for that, who believe passionately in the issue of racial justice, they go after them for doing that. They go after them for filming them. They tell them to shut the cameras off. They shut them down. They do that repeatedly. And so that's why they don't want anybody reporting on it. And now it's got to the point of sort of lunacy where it's right in front of you. It's unfolding in front of your eyes. And they're, so-called fact checkers are putting things together, trying to paint a picture to tell you that you're not seeing what you're actually seeing. And it's because being clandestine and operating this way is very important to them. It's how they avoid being designated in any form that is going to hold them to account.
So my question is, have you been able to find out who is funding this Antifa group and why in the world is the media acting as their PR firm? I don't understand this.
Well, there's a long history of the media doing that. You just have to look at the coverage over the last few years. Don't take my word for it. Starting with the greatest lie of all, which is that these organizations are anti-fascist. They're not anti-fascist. If you look at their, if you look at their origins, what are they actually doing? They were fighting other fascists for power. Their ideology is historically taken from German Marxists. And it has nothing to do with fighting fascists because you're against fascists. It's about one group of fascists fighting another group for power. And they don't want you to look closely at that, right? They don't want you to see them for who they truly are. And why people are complicit? Well, there's many political figures, many in the leadership politically, who cover for them. And the record of the media over the last 4 years speaks for itself, right? There's no pushback, there's no challenge. They're not investigating this. And the worst part is it extends into law enforcement. It's not just the media. It's not just the political establishment. It has echoes throughout law enforcement because these groups have been allowed to proliferate with very little oversight, with very little sanction, with very little investigation. In fact, our federal law enforcement has done staggeringly little about them. It's a failure of leadership, so almost on every level, because we're still pretending they don't exist. Mm-hmm. And guess what? That's what they're doing today, still. Even though you're watching it, you can see it with your own eyes. Just go back and look at the videos. Look for the guys who are all dressed in black. See how some of them have earpieces, which are hard to see. There are repeaters on their vehicles. They're communicating. Their backpacks are heavy. They're packed with equipment. They operate in exactly the same way on every single street where there is violence. And in all these different cities, do you think that people do exactly the same things and operate in the same way and adhere to the same ideology without there being any form of infrastructure and organization? It defies logic to look at it that way.
And what's interesting to me, what I'm trying to figure out, is that a lot of Antifa interested folks would probably be sympathetic to Bernie Sanders, and yet we know that the Democratic Party and the media worked very hard to make sure Bernie Sanders in both times didn't have a real fair shot at the Democratic nomination. So how is it that on one hand, the liberal, the left of center media narrative wants to prevent that strong Bernie Sanders socialistic frame from being, in power, but at the same time, they're running cover for Bernie Sanders adjacent folks like Antifa? I'm trying to square that narrative, how they're doing that,
Well, it's very similar to the way that Hitler used the brown shirts and Mussolini used the black shirts. It's a form of intimidation and repression through violence. And what it does is discourage other people to stand up. So it's very useful for political figures. Why is it okay, if this is about ideology, why is it okay for these people to carry weapons and it's not okay for anyone else to carry weapons, right? Those two things appear to be contradictory. Well, because they want to decide who carries the weapons and when they do and what it's for. And if you look at the ideology, what they actually talk about, to abolish the police, abolish the law, abolish the prisons. And they say America has to die for a new order to be born. That's their anarchist literature. You don't have to take my word for any of this. I speak to people in law enforcement. I speak to people in counterterrorism, to people who study this. in the intel community. I study it myself, but mostly I rely on them. That's what I rely on most of the time, because they offer the greatest insight into who they are, and they say it openly. They believe in violence and violent protest in order to reach their aims. And just look at what's happening in Seattle. I mean, there have been how many shootings in Seattle now? How many people have died during a very short amount of time? And what exactly is happening? Well, you enforce a perimeter, so that means it has to be policed. It's not being policed by the Seattle police. It's being policed by them. Who are them? Well, they're the people. But some people have weapons and some people don't. Some people are enforcing the rules and some people are following them. So all of this just exposes the hypocrisy in the idea that in the ideology, and that's what they don't want you to look at. They don't want you to look at the violence. They want to talk about a summer of love. They want to talk about the music and all the other things that are happening there. But they don't want you to take a close look at the reality. And so anyone who takes a close look at the reality is a target. And we've been in a culture for far too long now where anyone trying to stand up for the truth, anyone trying to follow the facts where they take them, who's not politically motivated, who's not ideologically motivated, somebody like myself, but I'm not the only one. Andy No is another person. You get savaged and attacked, and the media is the foghorn for these smear attacks, which are very well funded. They're very well thought out and organized. They have masses of infrastructure behind them, from artificial intelligence to reams of people whose only job is to come in every day and destroy you. And they want to destroy not just you, but your family as well, to take away your ability to work, to take away your ability to keep a roof over your head or to feed your children. They want you, they want you never to work again. Mm-hmm. It's not enough just to take away, it's not enough to take away your job, it's not enough to take away your career. They want to destroy you. And there's a growing number of people that fall into this category. And Americans see it. They see it happening in front of their very eyes. But you know what? Their voices are drowned out. Because who's listening to them? Why aren't you seeing across all the TV screens all of the incidents that took place during these riots and during the protests, where people were unified, where people stood together? Why are none of the leaders who are coming out saying that this is a critical moment where we have to address this issue of racism? Why aren't they also saying, and look how far we've come? Look how far we've come. Because the evidence is there. That's not my word or my opinion. Look how far this country has traveled from the beginning. We hear all the time about the origins of slavery and the beginning of this country being founded and rooted in racism and slavery and racial injustice. But we've traveled. We're not in the same place, are we? You can't deny that there's been a lot of progress. That doesn't mean there isn't a long way still to go. Of course there is. This is a very real issue. And people feel strongly about it because it's really significant to who we are. But the message is one of division. And if you look at their literature, again, if you look at how civil movements and civil unrest is organized, it's based on division. Go back to the origins of what Lenin said. Lenin talked about hatred and the importance of hate. So this has origins in the very movement that's telling you that it's against hate, which is just a deception. And either journalists are, they're either complicit or they're too stupid or they're deliberately, willfully refusing to acknowledge it. They look and cherry pick the pieces that support their narrative, and there's no shortage of people lining up to give them all the so-called facts that they want. And you know what? That's really easy to move with the pack, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, groupthink and herd mentality is very, very big in this leftist radical movement. And as it is in many ideologies, but one with this level of power is something that's very dangerous. How does this, what you've seen on the Antifa stirred up attitudes and actions on the ground, how does that compare with what you did? You studied in the Middle East, the uprisings, the Arab Spring, and things like that in the Middle East. Is there parallels there with the way these are looking?
Well, it's very interesting that you should say that, because what you're really talking about, this is the age of information warfare, right, which is empowered by technology. This is the age when groups like this are, they are encouraged, and their influence is far greater. Their reach is global. Their funding mechanisms, their organization, all of it is empowered by technology. And that was very much what you saw on the ground in the Arab Spring. It was the same situation where people were able to communicate with each other. I mean, you can communicate with each other not just through chat rooms, not just through social media, but also through things, like video games. There's places where you can go in there and all play a game at the same time and have a confidential conversation between groups of you that's never actually recorded and just disappears. So technology provides all kinds of opportunities for people to mobilize and to organize. And that's the critical part here, is that it's a force multiplier. I mean, really, these groups have proliferated in the age of technology. And when you have political environment in which there is also no accountability for any of this, and people are being directed elsewhere, that is very similar to what was happening in the Arab Spring as well, and the pressure that's being put. So this is a tactic that goes back many, many years about creating civil unrest and civil disobedience. So you create an enormous problem in which you can come in and be the solution. And that, you see, Intel's people and people from all the different three-letter agencies who have been involved in these types of things all their lives and careers, they say that it's textbook. I mean, you're seeing it play out. And then there's the element of the McChrystal group, former General Stanley McChrystal. He has been completely open about the fact that he's teamed up with a Democratic super PAC in order to, in their words, defeat the president's messaging on the pandemic and other things, and that they're using the tactics that were developed by the United States government to use against foreign enemies and to counter terrorism. They're using them against the American people. I mean, I think that the
that's
quote
disturbing.
in the Washington Post from McChrystal was, "It's Pandora's box. It's been opened now," kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so the tactics are out there. So why not? And actually, other sources in the intel community say they've been doing this for years. So they're engaged in a war, an information war.
Wow.
And they're using these tactics very effectively. And these tactics were also used during the Arab Spring and the years throughout the years since 9/11. But they used to be used against this country's enemies, not against its own citizens.
We're speaking with Lara Logan, investigative journalist. We'll be right back in just a moment with more on the origins of Antifa. Don't go anywhere.
A lawsuit is not something that anyone looks forward to. It can be devastating. There is a law firm in Tampa Bay that will keep you informed throughout the entire process. That law firm is Catania & Catania. Personal injury law is defended with full disclosure. There is no guessing game. If it's an auto accident, medical malpractice, nursing home negligence, unsafe working conditions, or motorcycle accidents, the law firm of Catania & Catania will handle the process worry-free from start to finish. Many victims do not even realize that they can claim compensation for their loss until they talk to Catania & Catania. They only represent private individuals and treat every case as if it's going to trial. Putting families first is more than just a slogan. It's their way of practicing law. It's a commitment to you. Remember, they don't get paid if you don't get paid. So go to CataniaCatania.com, award-winning over 28 years and family first. Catania & Catania, personal injury, auto accident, and motorcycle accident attorneys.
And now, Easy Lift Movers is on the air, reminding all Americans to show support to the brave men and women of our U.S. military. Their bravery and tireless efforts should never go unnoticed. This salute is brought to you by Easy Lift Movers, serving the community with quality and pride. Call the pros today, 813-505-8474. That's 813-505-8474. Also, all troops and veterans will receive a 10% discount. That's Easy Lift Movers, proudly saluting our troops and veterans. They are professionals who care.
How would you like to be a part of the Guinness Book of World Records? Here's a unique opportunity for you if you own a boat. Conservative Grounds Coffee Shop in Largo will be hosting the world record for the largest boat parade on August 15th. This record-breaking event will be coming to the Pinellas Intercoastal Waterways in beautiful Clearwater. This parade will be held in honor of the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and all the accomplishments from his administration. More than 1,200 supporters are expected, and that's a number to exceed the current Guinness World Record. If you support the Trump administration, bring your vessel and come out and join in for this once-in-a-lifetime event and be a part of a world record. All profits go to charity or conservative political campaigns in the area.
To register for this once-in-a-lifetime event and be a part of the Guinness Book of World Records, visit HugeBoatParade.com. That's HugeBoatParade.com.
Looking for cheap flights or cheap tickets? Call the low-cost airline travel hotline now for prices so low we can't publish them anywhere. We'll even save you money with cheap travel deals on hotels, rental cars, even complete travel packages. Call us first for the absolute cheapest prices on U.S. and international airline tickets and hotels.
800-811-3471. 800-811-3471. That's 800-811-3471.
And we're back with Lara Logan, who's an award-winning investigative journalist, multiple Emmy Award winner, Edward R. Murrow Awards, and the host of Lara Logan Has No Agenda on Fox Nation. You can follow her at Lara Logan on Twitter or visit laralogan.com. And, you know, Lara, I was listening to you talk, and I was thinking about the famous book by the late Library of Congress director and esteemed historian James Billington. You know, he led the Library of Congress for years, but he published a book called Fire in the Minds of Men, where he documented using primary sources the characters involved with the revolutionary movements, the socialistic anarchist movements that swept Europe. And he chronicled it in meticulous detail with these primary sources and found that, you know, it was he was a neutral. He was like you. He's a neutral historian. He's not trying to make a point other than to document. And he shows that very, very powerful financial elites, the aristocracy, and the salons were very much involved with the financing and the development of the revolutionary movements, both the socialist version and the kind of counter-nationalist versions that swept Europe.
Yes, well, that's pretty much where I am. I have zero political motivation, absolutely none whatsoever. It means, you know, I'm one of the little people, and I never expect to influence any of these things, nor would I ever want to. That's not by. But when you see something happening right in front of your eyes and people are denying that it's actually happening, well, I mean, I just don't know how to not stand up for the truth. I don't understand that. I don't even know what that means. Unfortunately, it's in my DNA, because I can tell you that it doesn't make your life easier. It makes it much harder.
Well, how is, you know, I know you worked at CBS and you've done a lot in the media world. I mean, do you have off-the-record conversations with folks in the mainstream media? Do they share your concern privately, or do they all deny it, even off the record, that it's a problem, this Antifa?
You know, I'm a worker bee. That's what I do. I put my head down and I go, and I spend so much time absorbing and talking and listening and trying to understand. I just don't. I think what's happened to us in the age of being away from the office and all the rest of it, I've been away from the office for a long time. I live in a small town in the hill country in Texas, and I don't have to worry about what other journalists are saying and doing and thinking. I have colleagues and friends, of course, who I have enormous respect for, and we will talk to each other. But you know, I don't live in the land of denial, right? Denial is not just a river in Egypt. I mean, that saying comes out of somewhere. So I just think that it's so hard to do this work and to do it well and to do it right, that's what I focus on. That takes all my time. And I focus on doing that and trying where I can to be the best mother that I can be. And outside of that, you just have to block out all the noise.
Yeah. So have you found, who is the funding source for these groups? Have we been able to find any information on that? Because they've got nicely curated bricks at every one of these events where they were throwing rocks and bricks. So, it's got to be somebody's got some money.
It's interesting you mentioned the bricks, because here's a classic example of something where one of the first videos to emerge was a young African-American guy on the streets of a protest. I believe it was in Dallas. I could be wrong on that. Who's pointing to a stack of bricks and saying, something's wrong here. I was through here not so long ago. I know what this is. You got to do better than that to set us up, right? And that's really what caught people's attention and got people looking out for these stacks of bricks everywhere. So then what happens immediately after that? There's, fake stacks of bricks that are put all over the place. There's a number of fake sites that put out notices about the bricks. So what they do, that's an information warfare tactic where you muddy the waters, right? You're increasing the ambiguity. Nobody knows what the truth is. And then you're providing all these political operatives that are all over the media. You're giving them the fodder to then go out and write articles attacking people saying, oh, look at these people call themselves, oh, by the way, like me, right? Because this is how they tried to smear me. Look at this person who used to be such a great journalist and at 60 Minutes, and now what has become of her? Because they don't want you to listen to anything that I'm saying or doing. They want to take that credibility away from me, because it's easier if I only ever worked, at somewhere that was on the right. It's inconvenient that I have, more than 30 years of being in the mainstream media, winning, every award that the industry, just about every award the industry has to offer. And I don't say that because I care, because I'm pushing myself. It's not about ego. It's about the fact that now that I'm not towing the line and, falling in with the narratives, I'll never get another award for anything I do for the rest of my life. What does that say about those journalistic institutions? It's ridiculous. It's got nothing to do with the quality of the work. Well, it has something to do with the quality of the work. That's not true. But in the end, what it's about is, we control the information space and you don't. And we're not going to listen to you. We're going to push you into your little right-wing corner, and we're going to put a label on called conspiracy theory. And then, by the way, we're going to, attack you from any other angle that we can. And that, for anyone who's been through it, you may be interested to know, that's a tactic too. And where they come after you so that you have no time. You can't even think about it. And all the time that you spend defending yourself against these attacks is time that they feel is a victory, because it's taken away from your focus. It's maybe dented your confidence. It's maybe put your professional position at risk, alienated you from people that you like and respect and trust, or that you might need. And then the whisper campaign behind your back. And it's all about making sure that there's no independent source, that there is no independent reporting, that there is nothing outside of their control.
Wow, that is really a very disturbing picture to see, that the media has been going along with pushing for this kind of violent group to have such a free way to do whatever they want to do and hurt people and scare people. It reminds me of the color revolutions that a lot of powerful groups were financing in the NGOs.
One of the worst parts about it? One of the worst parts about it is that all my life, not just in what I've said, but in my actions, I have lived and stood against racism and racial injustice. There are few things that I care about more. There's very significant people that I have refused to work with in my career because of those things. And at great cost to myself, by the way, when I made those decisions. That's just one, small example. The worst part is they're painting us into corners, deliberately dividing us, so that if you care about what Antifa is doing...
Logan, we're out of time. Thank you.
And information, 1040 WHBO Pinellas Park. Tampa Bay's all new News Talk 1040.
It's the only way I get news.